As-Sabiqun wa rahmatullah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya ala salah. Hayya ala salah. Hayya ala falah. Hayya ala falah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Ahmaduhu wa asta'inuhu wa astadihi wa astaghfiruhu wa u'minu bihi jalla wa ala wa la akfuruhu wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Arsalahu bil huda wa dinil haq liyudhhirahu ala ad-din kullihi walau kariha al-mushrikun. All praise belongs to Allah. We praise Him. We seek His help, His assistance, and His guidance. We believe in Him and do not disbelieve in Him. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His servant and messenger. Allah sent him, that is Muhammad, with Deen al-Haq, the religion, the way, the methodology of truth, and that way of life known as Islam will rise to its proper position in this world, whether the mushriks like it or not. Amma ba'd, fa'inna astikal hadith kitabullah wa awtaqa al-ura kalimatu taqwa wa khayrul milali milatu Ibrahim wa khayrul sunani sunatu Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ashraful hadith dhikrullah wa asnu al-kasasi hadha al-Quran wa khayrul umuri awazzibuha wa shayrul umuri muhdatatuha wa asnu al-hadyu hadyu al-anbiya wa ashraful maut katlu shuhada wa amma alamat dalalatul ba'da al-huda wa khayrul amali ma nafa'a wa khayrul hadi ma utba'a wa shayrul amal kal. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the most truthful of discourses is Kitabullah, or the book of Allah. The most trustworthy word is taqwa, or fear of Allah. The best of the communities is the community of Prophet Ibrahim. The best way of life is the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The remembrance of Allah is the most glorious of all things. The best of all narrations is Quran. The best acts are those requiring the highest degree of will and determination. The best way of life is the one adopted by the prophets of Allah. The most glorious death is the death of the martyr. The most wretched blindness consists of going astray after finding the right way. The best acts are the ones that yield benefits. The best guidance is that which people may be able to follow. The worst blindness is the blindness of the heart. The upper hand is better than the lower. The less which one can meet his needs is better than the more which can cause neglectfulness. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Inna Allaha ya'muru bil adli wal ihsani wa ita'i dhil qurba wa yanha 'anil fahsha'i wal munkari wal baghi ya'idhukum la'allakum tadhakkarun. Allah commands justice, doing of good, and brotherly to kith and kin. He forbids all shameful deeds and injustice and rebellion, and He instructs you that you may receive admonition. فَمَنْ يُرِيدِ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. Those whom Allah in His plan willing to guide, He opens their breast to Islam. يا أيها الذين آمنوا واتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. O you believe, fear Allah as He should be feared, and do not die except in the state of Islam. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. And hold fast all together by the rope which Allah stretches out for you, and be not divided amongst yourselves. Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat lin-nasi ta'muruna bil ma'rufi wa tanhauna 'anil munkar wa tu'minuna billah. You are the best peoples ever raised up for mankind. You enjoin the right, you forbid the wrong, and you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala khairul mursaleen. Muhammadin al-Nabi al-Ummi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Yaqulu Allah ta'ala fil Quran al-Kareem. Inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu tasliman. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Maulana Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. By the English meaning, Allah loves not that evil should be noised abroad in public speech, except where injustice has been done. For Allah is He who hears and knoweth all things. Whether you publish a good deed or conceal it, or cover evil with pardon, or cover evil with pardon. Verily Allah does blot out sins and hath power in judgment and values. So this is talking about the spread of evil. You know, like they have books, magazines, and what have you, that they basically designed to spread fitna and gossip, you know, and gossip and sensationalism and glorifying evil. You know, like the movies here, they glorify evil, you know. So that basically is a type of fitna. And so it could be idle talk, gossip, and slander. And it said that you should be careful about public speech unless it's to do away with dhulm, you know, darkness and ignorance and what have you. And so this ayat is dealing with the subject we want to deal with today. Because in the subject we want to deal with today, first we want to deal with the public evil that we all know about. This is September 11th. So we want to deal with that. We also want to deal with the history of our people and their approach to this. And that's what the last part is dealing with. You could do good deeds and conceal them, or you could even conceal or publish bad deeds if it's for correction, right? For straightening out something. And maybe we've been dealing with some of these subjects for decades. And so we wouldn't want people to misunderstand our approach, that we're not challenging, threatening, or being combative with people. We just want to correct the situation that we're in. And we'll start with our dear time that we have here with Top American Imam says 9/11 was pretext to declare war on Islam. That's your dear brother here, of course. So you know I'm not that friendly with Zionists and other people. You already know that. September attacks in the United States were used by U.S. government as a pretext to declare open warfare on Islam and Muslims. An American activist says, this is from Al-Bayt Agency, September 11th attacks in the United States were used by the U.S. government as a pretext to declare open warfare on Islam. An American activist says, it's totally illegal what the government is doing, says Abdul Ali Musa, the director of Masjid al-Islam in Washington, D.C., criticizing a federal judge's dismissal of a lawsuit alleging the New York City Police Department's illegally spying on Muslims and Americans in New Jersey. But this was a court deal, and this was several years later, 2-3 years later. The U.S. government and the New York Police Department was censured, or they was trying to censure them or charge them for spying on Muslims illegally. Now you have to remember, during those days we had a lot of setups going on in the court. They would set up Muslims for little or anything. Even before, they had the paintball crew. They would shoot the paintball, that's all. Everybody shoots paintball. They sent them to the penitentiary. Said they was practicing getting ready for terrorism. I run in the park over there and I saw the police over there shooting paintball. Right over in Fort DuPont Park. Yeah, they're everywhere. Everybody's shooting paintball. On the movies, not on the movie, this was on a news program. They showed that there was a group of white men that would pay a white woman $1,000 or something like that, and she would run out in the woods naked, and they would try to shoot her on her behind with paint. I don't know if y'all ever saw that. Isn't that ridiculous? But that's true. That's what they do that, and that ain't nothing illegal about that, right? And nothing is. This is so idiotic, the stuff we deal with here. But it was set up from the very beginning. They had a plan. It wasn't just September 11th was the conclusion, but the one that happened in '93 was the trial run. The one they had World Trade Center, 1993. We also went on a program like down there, Kojo Nambi Show. In fact, Muhammad Al-Asi and I went down there, and Brother Hadari. We were saying, no, this is a setup, you know, and this is what they're going to do. And they're going to try to change the laws, and they're going to try to get new acts and statutes, which they did from '93. That's what they got. By the time 9/11 happened, they had all the Patriot Act, they had all that. The Death Penalty Act, they had all that already taken care of before 9/11 happened. But anyway, we say down at the end, My belief is it's a waste of time for Muslims to use all of their energy seeking justice in the United States courts. Musa told Press TV on Saturday, the United States court system is totally controlled by American Zionism, and they are not going to allow Muslims to gain any justice in that court. You know, one of the complaints we have is with the Muslims. The government, they do what they're supposed to do, right? They're anti-Islam, they're controlled by the Zionists, right? We love Palestine, we're for the people of Yemen having their freedom and liberty, so automatically we're not going to be their friend. But then what about us? What about our Muslim brothers and sisters who are leaders? When 9/11 happened, how many of them got up and spoke up and said what they all said in private? That is a setup. We didn't do that, right? And then when you deal with the evidence, I was out in California when it happened, so I couldn't come back here on a plane, so I caught the bus up. I was in LA, I caught the bus up to Oakland, where I'm from. And I hung out there for a couple of weeks, gave football and stuff like that. But there was one group of people who could leave the United States. Only one group. Well, who were they? They were the people of Saudi Arabia. They could leave. Now, let's just suppose it was 15 Lebanese or 15 Iranians that had something to do with so-called 9/11. Well, what would have happened? Why, it would have been all over, right? But what about the 15 people from Saudi Arabia? What about their lifestyle? One or two of the guys are having lap dances the night or a couple of nights before the so-called bombing mission. That's not, and they was calling it a martyrdom mission. Imagine a Muslim getting ready to face Allah. He knows he's ready to give his life for this cause. And he's purifying himself and cleansing himself because he gonna sacrifice his life for the cause. So he is certain that he's gonna face Allah. In the meantime, he's gonna have a couple of lap dances, right? This is insanity. It's so insane. We know it's a lie, but the American people don't know it's a lie. The American people don't know it's a lie. The American people don't have no idea about what's going on right here in the United States today. And the Muslims should know. Oh, Don, 2 days ago, they got Bob Woodard, right? This guy goes so far back, he goes back to Richard Nixon's time. Watergate, he's the one that wrote all this stuff on Watergate. He's 500 years old. Well, he's older than me. So, Don is saying, yeah, this is maybe March. No, this is February the 7th. He's saying, yeah, well, man, this new virus is so bad, it's 5 times as bad as anything you might have got before. And it's serious. You know what I mean? And he said, and you can catch it it's airborne. If y'all saw that on TV, this is Don said. This is airborne. So then the guy calls him back maybe in March. But he said in February, he said, you just finished talking with Xi Jinping, whatever his name is, from China. What did y'all talk about? He said, well, we talked about the virus. But on TV, he was telling people, this is Hong Kong virus, not Hong Kong, whatever you call it, Kung Fu virus, right? And they never told us nothing about none of this, but in February, of course it was January when he really got the news, or even before that, but he's given a clear dissertation on what the virus is about on February the 7th. So he knows all about it, and oh, you was talking with the Chinese premier, y'all seem to get along very well. He said, yeah, we was talking about the virus. And then, all the masks we needed over here, guess what he did back then? He sent all the extras here to China. And then a month later, we all need masks. We ain't got no masks. The people in the hospital pointed and said, wash your mask. They told the Negro here, I thought they was Crips and Blood. Get your handkerchief, a red or a blue one or what have you, and tie it. That's what they said. I was watching it. They said, tie a handkerchief. Become a gang member with gang colors, right? It's unbelievable what they do. They tell people stuff. And then, see, the reason it's so ridiculous is because our Muslims don't say anything. Our Muslim leaders don't say anything. Therefore, you can't blame the American people for the stuff they go for. They said it was 28 pages that they hid from the Congress, right, about Saudi Arabia. That's what they said. 28 pages hid. Okay. It was all about Saudi Arabia. But a month before that, the judge had declared that the money they got in tow from Iran, that the 9/11 people can get some of that Iranian money that they got. Nobody even said Iran had nothing to do with it. But nobody cares, right? It's okay because, look, I'm just going to say this briefly. What is all of this foolishness about right now? It's about Donald Trump being hired by the Israelis. Because first we were trying to figure out why Don, if you got crisis management, it doesn't say turn right, he turned left. Why he do everything that he's not supposed to? And there's no learning curve. He ain't learning nothing, right? Why is it? It's because the Zionists, I'll put it this way. Obama was a house nigga, but he made one mistake. He made the treaty with Iran, and Saudi Arabia hated it, and the Zionists, Netanyahu, hated it, right? And he was telling them all the time. Netanyahu came over here and he spoke before Congress, right? And he got 17 standing ovations, right? And Obama couldn't hardly get none. Some of y'all might have heard this, I definitely heard it. There was a meeting at the White House with the Zionists there. And they told Obama, okay, you can go now. In other words, you don't have to be in on this. We the Zionists here. We're meeting here in your so-called White House, and the people elected you. But he made a mistake. Did he realize that there was no nuclear threat with Iran? So, hey, let's put something on paper and call it a day. Right? That's what they did. That was his mistake. So, divide, conquer, and rule. Here's how the world works. They have what Eisenhower called the military-industrial complex, right? They make money selling weapons to us and to everybody else, so they need wars. So the military-industrial complex is the one that controls the CIA. So what is the CIA going to do? It's going to start wars, right, in our community to make us weak so we can't develop. The war in Yemen is the poorest Arab country in the world, and the richest Arab country in the world is attacking it. destroying the infrastructure, all roads and even dams and things like, there ain't much water in Yemen already. And they just blowing up anything they can to break the infrastructure, to destroy those people because, well, a few of them may be Houthis, and they may be a little bit of this, and they may be this. That's the only reason. Okay? I don't even like to watch the news on Palestine anymore because I think I know the story and I just can't bear to watch it because it's unbelievable. That somebody, one human being can do that to another. And those same human beings are the ones that was abused and genocidal things done to them under Europeans. And especially under Nazi Germany. A couple of years later, 1 year later, after Hitler's dead in 1946, the Zionists blow up the King David Hotel, right, in Jerusalem, with Arab clothes on and blame it on the Arabs, and they ship, and they voluntarily, happily go and take over somebody's land that's been living there for thousands of years. Right? And it's okay. And then the policies that they have in Palestine is exactly the same policies that Adolf Hitler did with them. Collective punishment. Trying to break their will, destroying their everything. Farms, water. Can you imagine? It's illegal in the UN for you to occupy land. They didn't occupy that land since '67. And nobody says anything about it. Why? The UN is temporarily under the control, right, of the United States. Therefore, anything that Zionists do, it's okay. Anything that Zionists do, it's okay. So what about now? The Zionists wanted to pay the U.S. back for what they did, signing that treaty, but they wanted to make sure it never happens again. Therefore, they have to weaken, like they do all other countries. They keep us weak and fighting each other, right? They apply, we see it on TV all the day, divide, conquer, and rule. Well, okay. What's Donald Trump's, what do they call him? The divider in chief, right? Not the unifier. Is he doing it on purpose? Of course he is. Why? He's an actor. And they had to hire, the Zionists had to hire somebody that would act that big a fool. You couldn't get no normal politician, right, in the Senate to act that big a fool. But this guy does it. He does it. Why? To weaken the United States. Divide, conquer, and rule. That's why everything you see, it seems like, hey man, they arranged that. Like 911. When you see that white man got his knee on a brother for over 8 minutes, right? He's there like, I'm just hanging out, right? You see him? He ain't sweating. He ain't having no problems. He's there doing that job. Why? The cooperation in recent years between the Israeli police, right, and the American police. Why is the American police acting more like Israeli police? Right? Why okay, you got George Floyd dead. The people are jumping up and down. Why don't you have a moratorium on killing niggas for a while? Why they don't do that? Because they want to show, and they want to divide, and they want to mess up America, which ain't gonna take much. It's messed up. They're doing that on purpose. They got all the records of all the police, and they said, this guy here, he's a nigger killer. A lot of people don't realize. They think the police are really well trained and they're just honest and a few bad apples. They ain't never been arrested. They don't look in them police eyes. Anybody been arrested? Them boys want to shoot you. There's a good 25%. I want to shoot that nigga, right? They want to do it. Or they all got it hooked up and they say, hey, we might get a chance to beat the guy to death almost, right? They want to do it. Okay? Divide, conquer, and rule. Divide up America. When it's divided, it's weakened. Is America divided right now? Of course it's divided. And you're going to go and vote for somebody that's crazy, right? They got to be crazy. Okay, let's just look at the world we're living in. California is already burnt down. But it's not burnt down like regular burnt down. If they had 100-year fires in California, the last 10 years they didn't have 7 of them in California. In Colorado, they having fires too. But guess what? Earlier this week, it was on fire 90-something degrees. And day before yesterday, it was 20 degrees with snow. Right? That's no big deal. You know where the evergreen state is? If you ever see Washington, it's Washington. The state of Washington. I mean, you go up there, Tumwater, Washington is there, where they got the great falls and springs, fresh, good water. It's the evergreen state. It's always green. And Oregon, right below it, most of it is kind of like Washington. Where are these fires burning now? In the evergreen state. Why are they burning? Some of the biggest fires in the United States is burning in the evergreen state. And the number 2 evergreen state, I just heard on the radio 15 minutes ago that they're evacuating a prison, right? A women's prison in Oregon, which Oregon is green. I mean, you can see Oregon is green, man. But not right now. They evacuated the prison. They have evacuated 500,000 people in the last week or so. I bet it's like a migration, right? And what is it? It's forest fires. Where do forest fires come? They come from drought and everything. Where does drought come from? Well, they burning up everything down in Brazil, right? And all of that CO2 gas is covering the United States and it's causing a greenhouse effect. So it's causing super rain in some parts, right? And drought in the other. Just the simple stuff. The other thing you hear is, oh, they have this microplastic. Anybody heard about that hair-like plastic? It's filling up the oceans right now. Because they do a scoop of the ocean and they get hair-like plastic. Not the big plastic that we all see. That's there too. And the fish are eating that little microplastic and they're dying of starvation. You know why? They think it's food and they open them up and they're full of plastic. They got camels in the desert over there, that big old hump they got on their back, from eating all them plastic bags and stuff, they got a big lump of plastic. Yeah, either in their belly or on their back. I don't want to talk about all the things that are going wrong with the world, but the world needs wazn, al-mizan. Al-mizan, what is al-mizan? Allah sent or gave us this earth in balance. He created everything in balance, right? Balance, it could be justice, it could be equality, but that's mizan. The world needs justice and balance on all levels. They got 40 or 50% of the people going broke, right, in America. What about the top 40%? What are they doing? They're getting rich as they can be. In this little period, they got Bezos, and all them boys. They did a little survey, they done stuck on $11 billion on their money, right? And me and you starving to death. That means everything is out of balance. I don't want to get philosophical and metaphysical, but the earth is a living organism. And the earth is crying out itself. It's straightening us out. You know, the earth been here 4.5 billion years. And they say it's going to be here another 4.5 billion years. So this little time we here, they had ice ages, heat ages, zoom ages, all kind of ages, right? In all that period of time. Do you think the earth is going to allow this dummy called a human being to cause its death? Everything you see is the earth rebelling against the oppression and maltreatment of itself. That's because the earth is alive, right? If it's a living organism, it's going to try to cure itself. So it ain't going to take long to figure out, why am I all messed up like this? Oh, it's that boy up there running around, mining up all of this, changing everything to chemicals, right? They'd have left me alone. They'd have made everything out of trees and everything. They would have died, decomposed, went back into the earth. Now they got plastic. Right? But now, let's get back to Don. We ain't going to forget Don. We kind of strayed a little bit on justice. Look, I'll tell you. Well, I had an article a long time ago. Maybe. How to think, believe, and act after 9/11. And it was about the military-industrial complex. It was about what they had set up at that time. Weapons of mass destruction, right? For Iraq, 2003. Afghanistan, so-and-so hiding in a cave. He got, where you gotta go for dialysis all the time. Because in Kuwait, you get one of them hospitals. Osama bin Laden had a medical problem. You can't get no treatment in no cave in Tabora nowhere. You can't do that, right? When he left the hospital, it was in one of them Uncle Tom Arab states, and he'd go back then to Afghanistan. But he ain't did nothing no way. So they blow up Afghanistan. And they thought, yeah, see, the Russians had been there, and then they moved in, and it was happy days. Oh, we done slaughtered all these Afghanis, we got them in power, we got them on the hill, and guess what? He's there now 18 years later, 19 years later, and the Afghanis ain't letting him go. They begging the U.S. is, please let us go. We don't want no more, right? They said, no, man. They just blew up somebody, the vice president or something, yesterday. Iraq, oh, they flowed in there. They thought it was going to be like 91. It didn't turn out like that. Iraq turned out to be a disaster for America. And then that dummy, whatever the guy was, he come on and they asked him a question. He says, well, there are known unknowns. They said, well, what about the invasion? They said, well, that's an unknown known. He said, you know, there's things that we know, and we know we know. Y'all remember that? And there's things that we know we don't know. And there's things that we don't know that we don't even know we don't know. So he said there are known knowns. So when you ask about weapons of mass destruction, that's a known unknown. We thought we knew it, but we didn't really know it. Because it wasn't none there. Isn't that right? Oh, it wasn't none there. How many people got killed during the invasion? All together. Put them all together. Before the invasion, when Clinton and them went there, old George, Madeleine Albright was asked about, well, Miss Albright, from the sanctions you put on there, 750,000 people, men, women, and children died in Iraq from these sanctions. She said, I think it's worth it. See how cheap they think we are? Now suppose our imams and leaders don't talk about this stuff. And if you talk about it, you can't come amongst them, right? To tell nobody nothing. They're not working for the system. They don't get a check. Well, I hope they don't. But it's fear, it's stupidity. Why our people, why we the only one got an article, How to Think, Believe, and Act After 9/11. Why nobody else? We had programs, Hands Off Libya. Why? They destroyed Libya? Look at it now, right? They tried to destroy Syria? Well, he did destroy Syria. Right? I want to read you our first response to all this. Open letter to the FBI. Name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. We should have said, blessed be those who follow the guidance, but we didn't. Okay. We share the nation's grief over the tragic events surrounding the bombing and collapse of the World Trade Center. Our hearts go out to the thousands of family members who wait in suspense of news regarding their loved ones. However, we have a few points regarding your agency's investigation into these events. Number one, we believe that you are obliged to follow your own tried and tested rules of investigation in regard to the tragic crime of September 11th. When a crime is committed, you must examine A, who had a motive, B, who had the ability to carry out the crime, C, who would benefit from the act, and D, who has the history of this type of crime. Right? That's what the police do when something happens. What do? They say, who had a motive? Right? Who would benefit from this? Who had the ability to do that, right? And who has a history of that? If there's a lot of pedophilia going on in the neighborhood, what do? They pull out the records. Is it any pedophiles we just let out of the penitentiary, right? How many of them registered pedophiles live in this neighborhood, right? So they're gonna go, they got a tried and tested policy of crime fighting. So we said, with that 9/11, you should follow your own outline. Let's see, when we honestly examine the tragedies of September 11, 2001, in an unbiased fashion, we do not find Muslims as the most likely suspects. Those who really had a motive are the Israelis. We say this because of the windfall of benefits they received from the original bombings 8 years ago, after which Muslims became the target via the anti-terrorism bill, sympathy for the Zionist cause, and its illegal occupation of Palestine increased several times over. To add to this, such events as the recent bombings encourage Americans to fight for the stability of Israel. This usually entails the processing of innocent American youth as cannon fodder for Israel. All those wars are for Israel's bad. They want to get rid of Saddam Hussein. Why? Saddam Hussein had fought the Iranians, right, for 8 years. Saddam Hussein, they had built up his army. And he had an army that, it wasn't that good, but they could stand sustained warfare for a long time. Who was that a threat to? That was a threat to the Israelis, right? Iraq, Syria, it used to be Egypt, all those people are a threat to the Zionists. So they tricked Saddam. They told the Saudis, they told the Kuwaitis, go tell that man, because they know he's a meathead like Donald Trump, right? You go tell him to give you your money back that you loaned him during the war. So let's say it was $50 billion for Saudi Arabia from 1980 to 1988. It was $33 billion, more or less, from Kuwait to help Saddam defeat their eternal enemy. They even renamed it the Arab Gulf instead of the Persian Gulf. I'm telling you, these people be going crazy. You gotta watch them. So anyway, here's that war that's going on. Why the war? Is the war because the Israelis, which also bombed the nuclear place in Iraq in '82, but since y'all not been around that long, you may not remember this. We're fortunate. We remember all of this stuff. So we got to destroy Saddam's army. So here comes Saudi Arabia. They said, Saddam, you got to give us our money back. We kind of having it bad. He said, I fought the Iranians for you. All the Iraqis dying. You helped. That was Egyptian pilots, Egyptian technicians, Jordanian regulars. It was Sudanese mercenaries. Everybody was helping Saddam. The U.S. foodstuffs, poison gas, all that from Europe and America. They really wanted to destroy Iran. They didn't do it. But there's the army there. We got to get rid of that army. That army is a threat to Israel. Oh my goodness. Remember, everything is a threat to Israel. If America is too free and can do what's good for itself, it may not be good for Israel. So Israel have to keep boss man here weak. You said they wouldn't do that to boss man, they do it to everybody else. Yes, they do. They not only have done it, they are doing it. That's why they got all this stuff taped already. It's already pre-planned. You said, man, Don lied and said he didn't know nothing about this, that, and other, but he just gave an interview way back in February, right? And in March. They have that plan right now. Plus they want to keep this thing here. Watch the TV. They want everybody to vote. Right? That's the main thing they want, everybody to vote. Number two, they want to make it look like, first of all, they tell you all the bad stuff Don do. We can't let him, he can't win. Well, I mean, he can if they want him, but he can't win, right? Okay, now don't worry about elections. They've been had hanging chairs. They didn't have the one President Swift voted, right? And they had Obama that wasn't born in America. They got anything, they can run anything game they want. They can steal any election they want. They probably stole this. They can do that, clearly. But everything is arranged. So this election coming up, right, will be a choice that so-called freedom for America. It won't be no freedom because there's no policy. Nobody has a policy to do nothing. All these fires burning, who said we're going to, if anybody loved America and loved the world, they said we having a freeze on production. We can't smoke up no more atmosphere. We got to we got to discipline ourselves. We got to have this discipline for 5, 10, 15, maybe 20 years. We got to put the earth back on its pedestal where it belongs, right? We got to clean this thing up. They can't do that. They could, but they won't do it. That's what somebody should do right now. So they're having a phony election. For what? Either a mean old Don, divide, conquer, and rule Don, right? Total Israeli support. Israeli support? He's not an Israeli supporter. Well, he just moved the embassy, he did everything else. He got his son-in-law that can't even read and write, handling global State Department stuff. The guy is 35 years old or something, and he don't know where nothing is on the map. And he's controlling, right? Of course, he's a little Yahudi, that ain't no big deal. You know, that's the way it goes. The point is, all of this stuff going on, and the Muslims are sitting in their house, the Muslim leaders. If they can't lay out this scenario, just like I laid it out to you, that it's all a setup to keep America weak, to keep the Zionists strong. The Zionists may be weak, but if everybody is weaker than them, then they're strong, right? Netanyahu they out in front of his house right now. They call him the prime minister, the Israelis call him Netanyahu right now. Think about it, y'all have seen it. The prime minister, right? So he's not strong, but if we're weaker than him, right? If I can lift 100 pounds and everybody else can't lift but 25 or 30 pounds, I'm strong, right? If I have a little unity and everybody else have disunity in combat amongst each other, you see? So they ruling on that. Let me go on ahead. I'm going to finish up and let you go for a minute here. Let's see. Anti-terrorism bill. The Israelis are the bad guys here. Okay, Israel was labeled a Zionist racist country in Durban, South Africa, at which point Israelis and U.S. officials walked out of the World Conference this week. Israel is non-apologetic. American flags are flapping in the breeze. Lucky you. So as far as benefits to be drawn from the recent tragedy, Israel wins hands down. Have you ever noticed that when America says, or Israel says, well, we're going to need a such and such, like for instance, 9/11, the Secretary of State, the Negro woman, whatever, Condoleezza Rice, I think, she said we'd have to have a Pearl Harbor event to get this through, right? Okay, Pearl Harbor event, all of a sudden you got 9/11, right? Every time they want to pass a bill, look at U.S. history. Every time they want to pass a crime bill. Okay, like right now. Everybody's walking in the street, Black Lives Matter, Last month, what are Negroes doing? Apologizing to Israelis, remember? The Negroes, the football players, some of them, apologizing to Israelis. Nobody remember that? It's all on the news. We're sorry. All attention is on black people for a change, right? And now some dumb Negro say something, and we got to apologize to the Israelis. You see what I mean? This stuff is too crafted. How can that happen? Oh, you guys talking about defunding the police while you're killing each other. You ever hear any of them dumb black mayors say, hey, we start killing each other when you all brought drugs in here, right? Don't you remember some years ago, the black community left its doors, 50 years ago, it was a while back. When I grew up, we didn't close our doors. Ask anybody got gray hair. We didn't close our doors. The black community was a wonderful place to live. It was a wonderful place to live. Okay? When you got in the black neighborhood, you was home. You out there working in the white neighborhood, you get back home, glad to be here. They put drugs in our community to destroy black people, the family, and the movement. And they did that. I lived in Mexico. I lived in the center of drug trade in this hemisphere, in Culiacan, Mexico. All right, I lived in Medellin, in Bogota, and I never saw one thing in all those drug places. Negro. I was the only Negro there. Never saw another one. That means none of us brought none of these drugs here, right? We're killing each other in each city because they brought the guns here after the rebellion and gave them to us, and they brought the drugs for us to fight over, right? Hey, it worked perfect. None of the mayors say that. Well, we got to work on fixing that. Fixing nothing. You're not going to fix nothing till they get rid of them drugs or legalize them. If you want to help black people, legalize drugs. At least, for a while. Not the Muslims. That's around for us. But for the Negro, ain't nothing around for the Negro. Nothing is around for the Negro. I mean, they ought to legalize, like they do in Sweden and everything. They legalize heroin, cocaine, crank. Legalize it all. Then you won't have no excuse to have all these polices running around in your neighborhood, right? Kicking in doors. That's why they don't legalize it. Anyway, we're going to get back to Boss Man. I'm going to skip. Ability. Number 3, ability. Ability points again to Mossad and the Israeli intelligence network. The incidents in New York and D.C. are said to have demanded a high level of sophistication, organization, and specialization to carry out such a complicated mission. There are certain things that Muslims don't have. Specialization, organization. And what else they need? They need a high level of sophistication, right? How many sophisticated Muslim organizations you know? I mean, how many sophisticated? When you get trained by Boss Man, remember Saudi Arabia and all of them, they done trained all these ISIS guys. Remember all these guys going in the same kind of trucks, those white, whatever they were, Toyotas or something, pickups, by the thousands. Where did they get them trucks? Right? Where did they get all that money? It reminds us of way back when the Taliban come rolling into Afghanistan from Pakistan. They was in refugee camps. Where are refugees going to get new tanks and new weapons? Talib is a student. Where a student? Y'all students, how much money you got? You can buy a new tank? Raise your hand. It's only $100 million per tank. Well, get some old raggedy with it and get it for $25 million. You're a student? You're a Talib? Go down and buy one. Why not? You can't do it. Neither could they. These people keep us fighting amongst each other all the time. As old as British history. This old as history. You want to keep these guys off of you, get them fighting amongst yourself, then they won't mess with us, right? That's what Genghis Khan did. The Mongols, I'm not straight, I'll be right back. But the Mongols was, tribal people, China's up there, they would run up there and get a little something to eat, and then they come back, and they were raiders. They was nomadic. And the Chinese, the rich Chinese up there, would give them stuff, this tribe something, that tribe, so they'd fight each other. So if they could fight each other, they wouldn't come up there that much and bother them. So Genghis Khan, he got a few people together and he got bigger and bigger and bigger. And it just so happens that during that period of history, the horses and the weapons that the Mongols had caused them to get big. And that means they moved on to Afghanistan. You hear everybody's name, Faisal Khan, right? Abdul Rahman Khan. Where do you think they came from? Genghis Khan. So what happened? Genghis Khan, boy, he gave the Muslims a good whipping. You have to admit that. He whooped us real good. But guess what? He didn't take all that wealth back up there to Mongolia. He took Islam. He conquered the Muslims, but Islam conquered them. You see what I mean? Don't worry. So don't worry about America. Visualize America. Others don't think of everybody, but real Muslims, not no handkerchief-headed Muslims. We got enough of them right now. Tell the truth. We got enough handkerchief-headed Muslims. Okay. The last thing is, we talked about ability. So the Muslims didn't have the ability. All this stuff to protect America was shut down, right? Who could shut that down? Could Bin Laden shut it down? Could an Arab in a cave said it? He couldn't do it, right? Who could tell them shut down or run a test or do anything? It's the Americans or the Israelis. Y'all heard the news about it. It was Israelis taking pictures of it and they was dancing on the top of the building. Just terrible. They're saying that. That's what the news said. And the news will give you information that can be debunked, right? And then they put that guy on the news, like Alex Jones, that type of guy, that you can defeat anything he says. But some dummies are going to listen to him, but you can defeat him. You know, put us on there. You know why? We're not biting at that bait, that easy bait they hang by. Oh, this happened. Oh, cloud burst. No, them buildings were brought straight down, right? Straight down. There was implosion, professionally done. When I was in Iran time before last, a Puerto Rican guy, see, you watch the news, what they have the Spanish news is a little different than this news here. A little closer to the truth. They had a few of the people, remember, a few of the people working in the World Trade Center was Spanish speaking. This guy, his job was the stairs. I met with him 2-3 times. I know him. His job was the stairs. So he would start up on the 115th floor somewhere, and he'd come all the way down. That was his only job. But he got there late. When he got there late, things started to happen. He didn't get it, he couldn't get up. But he said, I heard this going on in those buildings. Da, da, da. That's what he was saying. In other words, implosions. Boom, boom, boom. And you see it on TV, right? Boom, 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 boom. So they don't tell the people that. It's not possible that 2 World Trade Center buildings could be done in by some nomads that can't do it. And why would they let everybody go back to Saudi Arabia anyway? So why did they hide 28 pages, probably 128 pages of this Senate report? It's all on Saudi Arabia. Because Saudi Arabia is a center of fitna for Muslims around the world. Everybody, whether it's Daesh, whether it's ISIL, none of the Muslims want to cut people's head, right, on the news. And they be Muslim too, because your blood and property is forbidden, right? So a Muslim technically not supposed to kill another Muslim. Well, why are they cutting people's throat? Jordanians, so anybody they got, they cut their throat. But there's something, I don't know if y'all remember, about 15 years ago, I gave a khutbah, and they had a Korean guy they had captured, and they was going to kill him, and he was really sad. And then they had 4 of these guys standing together, and then, guess what? One had gold chains, couldn't be a Muslim, right? The next boy standing to him, you know how white boys look when they lift certain weights? I used to lift weights. They had that neck right up here, that chest be popped up right here, and their neck be fitting right in there like a, you know, like that's the way that white boy looked. Those white boys wasn't no Might have been one Muslim amongst them. The rest of them guys was CIA agents that go to the gym 4 days a week, right? And he's out on assignment, and he still looks like that. Nobody else picks up on that stuff, but if you want to, you can leave. Okay, finally, the Zionists and Israelis have had a history of committing similar crimes. It is well known that the Zionists introduced terrorism to the Middle East. I told you about the King David Hotel, destroying the U.S. Liberty, the U.S. Embassy in Nairobi and Dar es Salaam, and in Cape Town in '98. They bombed buildings right there because at that time, '98, they want to get these terrorism bills. So they blew up these places all around the world and blamed them on the Muslims. So, dear Muslims, we just want to say that we have to make dua and pray for the betterment of our community. And that we begin to live up to what Allah has given us. Right. If we don't, your children, my children, they're going to be under the management of these crackpots. They're crackpots. Don is a crackpot, but he's a professional crackpot. The other guys are amateur crackpots. That's why they hired a professional crackpot to do what he did. He can get away with anything, right? Think about it. When he said, I could shoot somebody downtown in New York and get away with it, do y'all remember that? That's what he said. That's what the Zionists told him. You can do anything you want because you're our boy. Right? He can get away with that. Okay? He's a professional phony. That's what he does. He's like Reagan was, you know, an actor. Okay. Those people are in control of your life. Why should we take that? Why should we have crackpots in control of our life? Okay, I swore I was going to take it easy and not, I'll leave with this last one. It'll explain, let's see. And who shun the more heinous sins, that's the kabair, big sins, and abominations, and who, whenever they are moved to anger, readily forgive. When they push to anger, they forgive. And who respond to the call of their sustainer and are constant in prayer, and whose rule in all matters of concern is consultation amongst themselves. Amruhu shura bainahum, something like that. And who spend on others out of what we provide for them of sustenance. And who, whenever tyranny afflicts them, they defend themselves. They defend themselves. But this is the last one. This is the catcher. And you can see on this one, I have all these X's as a reminder. You can see them from where you are. X, X, X right over here. That's a reminder. But remember that an attempt at requiting evil may too become an evil. What does that mean? That means you want to straighten this stuff out. That's good. But don't go too far, because that will become evil too. So we have this here to remind, we have this on every other page. Be careful. Don't go too far. We love the Muslims. The Muslims as a group, as an organization, they spend all their energy cutting our throat and stabbing us in the back. Professionally, that's what they do. All of them here. You don't find none that's not a part of it. But we want them to join with us. We want them to mature. We want them to go through the struggle, nafs amara, nafs lawama, nafs al-mutmainna, where they become they realize the beatific vision of Allah, and they feel well done, well composed, and they're on the move. We want to be with them. Well, Allah, we seek thy refuge from anxiety and grief. We seek thy refuge from lack of strength and laziness. We seek thy refuge from cowardice and cowardliness. We seek thy refuge from being overpowered by death and the oppression of men. O Allah, suffice us with what is lawful. Keep from us what is prohibited with thy grace. Make us free from want of what is beside thee. Ameen. You comment this.